the day before the garden party in 2011 is when we found out that Temple had been accepted into the Little Lighthouse. And so we were beyond excited. There weren't words to really express how excited we were. And so the next day, sadly enough, I chased down Miss Marsha and I said, "You don't know me, but thank you." I just found out yesterday my daughter was accepted to the Little Lighthouse, and I was in tears because I was so excited because I knew about the opportunities that she had before her as a result of being accepted.
We waited 2.5 years, and she was on the waiting list for that long, and I remember so well the day that we got the call. I had taken my oldest son on a date to a movie, and I'd shut my phone off and was watching the movie, and I noticed that my phone was blinking, and I looked down and it was a message from the Little Lighthouse. Of course, I was out in the foyer just shaking, and called, and they said they'd be interested in if there's a chance that she could come and be here, and if the fit was great. And I just wept in the foyer of the movie theater for about 5 minutes and then went back in.
And you don't cry very often.
Yeah, I know. No, I do cry. But it was the most unbelievable, just the hope that I felt at that point.
I like to say that the Little Lighthouse today is not unlike the Mayo Clinic. It is the Mayo Clinic of early childhood development for special needs children. And I say that for several reasons. One reason is that if you've ever been involved with anyone going to the Mayo Clinic, the first thing they do is they have all the disciplines, the medical disciplines under one roof at the Mayo Clinic. To give you an example of what often happens at the Little Lighthouse, a child comes for its first day of evaluation and may come into the Little Lighthouse in a wheelchair. And the parents inform this interdisciplinary team of professionals at the Little Lighthouse that they have been told that this child will never walk. Well, the team always does their own evaluation, and after their evaluation, they often conclude that, well, it's true, without a lot of very, very hard work from this child, without a lot of dedicated work from the professional team at the Little Lighthouse, and without a commitment from the parents to be involved in this process, that this child probably will never walk. But then they say, now let's go to work.
Transdisciplinary Team is a group of teachers and therapists that come together and are able to fill each other's gaps, teach each other. One benefit is each of us have our own giftings and our strengths, and if I have an idea for a child, I see a need, I have an idea but I don't know all the answers to reach that. And so one way to do that is ask an OT for help, or tell the teacher, this is what I want to see happen. How can we make that happen? And they give us good insight to fill in the gap where I might not know exactly what to do.
The transdisciplinary approach, I think, is effective because you can't isolate what a child does. You can't teach just one thing and not bring in fine motor, and not bring in gross motor, and not bring in speech. And so to have the input of all those disciplines is critical for a child's development and moving forward.
Well, I've been a physical therapist for 38 years, so I've seen a lot of different practice environments. The way the Little Lighthouse program is different is that all the therapists and the teachers are under the same roof all day, every day. In many other styles of transdisciplinary treatment, the therapist may commute from one campus to another, and maybe the OT and the speech therapist are there on one day, but the physical therapist is not there until another day. So the fact that the teachers can page any one of us from any discipline at any time, and we're right on the spot, that is the biggest advantage that I've seen.
One of the things I've loved since we've been able to go here is I was driving so many different places doing physical therapy and different kinds of therapy, and now we're here, and it's all accomplished in a day, or a week, that all those needs are filled.
I love the fact that the therapists come into the classroom and they work with her in the classroom. There's truly a keyword transdisciplinary approach for the students. Temple has an individualized plan. The therapists are all working together. They're working with me. They're working with her therapist outside of the school. That is huge. That means that everybody is working together to do what's best for Temple. And I know that if there was not a Little Lighthouse here, that wouldn't be the case for her.
I drop Elle off and she picks her up, and it's like the intersection of love and excellence. So I don't question anyone's competency, but I also don't question their motives for being here and serving.
Know that there was a look if you just go yellow and red or whatever you have.
Well, I don't. Let's do the xylophone. That has some nice contrast. What do you think?
Well, and I appreciate watching the support you're giving her elbow and
Yes.
what that's doing for her hand.
Right.
Because in class when I'm wanting her to reach out and grasp something, or when she's working on an easel, just to see the support that you give her and what that gives her.
Lindsay has so many, she has a lot of reflex influence, and she's totally doing that. And then her tone issues, high tone, it's hard for her to extend her fingers and then to look in the same place with the reflexes, and yet she's doing it.
Speech-language pathologist assesses, diagnoses, and treats children with speech or communication disabilities. And here at the Little Lighthouse, it's a little bit different. I am able to stop and really observe the child, often pray that I see the child through God's eyes and that we can help the child meet their needs right where they are. I'm not so concerned about correcting the speech sounds or saying R the right way or using ing at the end of the word. What I look for a lot here is, how is the child communicating right now? Through their gestures? Is it with an eye blink? Do they duck their head to answer no? Are they using sign language? And then taking that and helping the world, their families, other employees see that they are communicating and understanding what that message means, and encouraging the child to do more of that and keep expanding on what they can do.
Occupational therapy is a field of therapy that really works with a child's overall well-being, function, independence, eye-hand coordination. When I work with children, I'm thinking about how they're using their trunk with their shoulders, with their hands to perform fine motor skills, how they're using their eye and their neck muscles to see and to perform those skills, and how they're coordinated together. I also look at quality of life. Is a child, are they independent, and are they happy in the choices that they make, showing that independence? So I'm just looking at quality of life and fine motor skills associated with it, eye-hand coordination, those kind of things.
He has a stander and he has a wheelchair. It's a manual chair.
But no gait trainer or kid walk. Do you think he's too crisscross?
It's going to be hard for him to use that. Okay. We're getting that hip abduction splint. I just got an email from Aaron today that he's going to mail that out. So I'll play with that. I don't know if it's going to be compatible with a kid walk, and we'd have to borrow somebody else's kid walk. Okay. The Little Lighthouse is similar to, say, a Mayo Clinic or a Johns Hopkins Clinic, which has all professional disciplines there, in that our team is here all day, every day. We will each do our assessments in our own area of expertise, then pull that together as a total assessment for each child. The teachers take their educational component. It's all compiled into one report, if you please, that then can go out to other schools the children may attend later, to physicians, to other healthcare providers, so that we send out a report that tells about the whole child, not just a physical therapy eval or a speech eval or an educational eval.
Assistive technology I have such a passion for because it just helps people to do tasks that they couldn't do otherwise. For our kiddos, we know that children need to play, and so that's one of the major things that we focus on and communicate. And so when we talk to parents and they have children that are unable to do something, communication is first on the list. They want their children to be able to communicate with them. So with this team, which is an amazing team, we just figure out all the gaps and all the things that our kids are unable to do, and we figure out a way for them to do that.
At the Little Lighthouse, we serve children with all sorts of different special needs. We serve children with cerebral palsy, spina bifida, Down syndrome, rare chromosomal abnormalities. We see some children whose diagnoses are very rare, and the doctors are still working on coming up with a diagnosis. Because of the diversification of the children that we serve at the Little Lighthouse, we of course have to have a very individualized approach in reaching all of our children. We have an approach called GIFT. It stands for Guide to Individually Focused Teaching, and basically it's an approach where we individualize our focus for every child. To be able to provide the individual approach for our children that they need to develop to their maximum potential, we are very reliant on having enough hands in the classroom to be able to make that work. And to make it work, we have to have a good amount of volunteers and the volunteer support in the classroom. So we have, of course, our certified teachers and the assistants in every classroom that train our volunteers as to how they need to interact with the children. The children are all set up with their specific activities that they need to be working on, and then the volunteers help implement those activities once they've been given equipped to help the children.
You know, seeing a kid that normally doesn't talk speak for the first time, a kid that doesn't walk for the first time, there's nothing like it.
I do read to them. I started reading Bible stories. I came 1 hour a day, but now I come 5.5 hours a day. I just have to come because I just love it here. Like I walk in the morning and they come and hug me and then they'll say, Miss Mary Ellen, sit by me, or it's just wonderful to be here. I just love it.
The reason I got involved with the Little Lighthouse was that I was overseas in Russia on a mission trip, and a lady asked me about a Down child, and I knew nothing about Down children. But I told her I knew of a school, though I'd never been here, that did know of the Little Lighthouse. So I came to the Little Lighthouse to find out about Down children. I also had been asking God to give me a place to volunteer. And with my work schedule, nothing worked until I found the Little Lighthouse. And where they said I could volunteer any day, any hours that I had, they would be happy. So I started volunteering here to find out stuff to take back to Russia so I could help the children over there with Down syndrome.
On the international arena, people started hearing about the Little Lighthouse. People who work, organizations that work with children with special needs around the world. And they said, can we come and learn from you how you deal with children with special needs, how you work with children with special needs. And some come as just a delegation from an organization, spend the day, take a tour of the Little Lighthouse. Some send their professionals here for extended stays and internships that can last over a year. But over the years, countries from all over the world, I think maybe as many as 25 countries have sent delegations here. They have sent their staff here to learn. And in some cases, they have asked, could we send our staff to do on-site training in their countries? Our staff has been all over Africa, to Russia, and to China, training organizations around the world and how to minister and how to work with children with special needs. The most amazing thing about all of this is that the Little Lighthouse charges nothing for the services they provide. They do not charge tuition for the children that come here. They do not charge fees for the training that they provide for other organizations around the world. And it all happens because of the wonderful people of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and their generosity.
If I could sit in front of all the donors, I'll probably be speechless, and it's because thank you just doesn't express enough, you know, how we feel about what they've been able to do. I remember coming to the little Christmas party, didn't have any expectations about it, and then getting a bag full of presents, the free communication device that Temple received, and we had been going really hard through our insurance company to try to get one, and we could tell that wasn't about to happen, and then out of nowhere, we find out there's a donor that wants to get a device for a kid, and we got it. And so if there's a word stronger than thank you, that's what I would tell them, you know, several times over and over again, because I know that this place is here because of them and their generosity, and because they believe in what the Little Lighthouse is doing. And so, yeah, I would say thank you in every language possible, just so they can get the...
numerous times.
Yeah, just so they can know how much we appreciate everything they've done to make this possible for our daughter.
And I would also say, don't grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time you'll receive a harvest. The work that they have done, that they provided for, is amazing. And you should know that you have indeed invested in the lives of these children in a way that no one can ever imagine.
There's so many children in the Little Lighthouse that just grab your heart, but one that really has grabbed a lot of our hearts is little Keith. And Keith came to the Little Lighthouse unable to communicate. And because of a very, and I'm not exactly sure what condition he had, but he has very little use of his extremities, and so not only could he not speak, that he cannot even use a communication device where that you can touch a symbol or spell out a word and communicate. So the only way he could communicate when he came to the Little Lighthouse was kind of to gaze over in this direction or that direction, and the parents or the teachers would try to ascertain what he was trying to tell them. They knew inherently that Keith was a bright young boy with a lot of potential, but he was just locked in a shell that kept that bright young boy just locked in the shell. As technology in every respect in the world today has just exploded, there was developed a communication device that does not require the use of your hands to touch a screen, and it actually can look at the retina of your eye and to tell where you're looking. So Keith could put the screen in front of him. He could look at letters or look at symbols, and symbol would say, "I'm hungry," or "I need to go to the bathroom," and the machine would talk for him. And all of a sudden, this little boy just exploded out of the shell, and was just the neatest young man that you could imagine. And his personality came out, and you can imagine being a parent and for the first time to hear this child say that he loved you, and that he wanted to go to a baseball game, and he loved fireworks, and all these things were just such an amazing thing that he just got all of our hearts. And it was just such a transformation from a child who could not communicate at all to a child that was vivacious and intelligent and communicative and loving, and just to see that transformation was special for us all.
One of my favorite stories about Keith involves when I was in a room actually treating another child. And I went in, I was working with another child, and I hear Keith with his new eye gaze system, this device that we provided for him, and he's speaking to another little girl in the room named Haley, who was feisty. And he's saying, "Haley, Haley, it's time to clean up. Haley." And he's doing this all through the communication device. She doesn't pay any attention to him. So he goes again, "Haley, Haley, Haley, it's time to clean up." No attention. Finally, he says it again, "Haley, it's time to clean up." And she puts her hand on her hip and says, "Keith, you are not the boss of me." And that was the best example to me of communication, because she was speaking right to Keith, and Keith was speaking to her. She wasn't looking at the communication device, but there was this very appropriate social interaction that had never been available to him before that year.
I'd like to introduce a very special keynote speaker, Mr. Keith Allen.
Hi, my name is Keith Boyd. I love the Little Lighthouse. I've learned a lot here and met a lot of friends, like my best friend Sam, who volunteered here last summer. I am ready to move on to big kids school now, so when I grow up I can be a meteorologist for Fox 23 News with my friend James Haydenot. Thank you, Miss Clary, Miss Megan, and Miss Donna for making school so fun. I've learned about God's love for me, and I really enjoy singing and dancing to praise Him. Congratulations, Little Lighthouse class of 2011.
The transition far surpassed anything that I had expected. He works so well with all the students in our classroom, and they're really welcoming of him. And he seems to have no apprehension or no hesitation with jumping right in and working on everything that we've been working on. He's really outgoing and fits right in with the rest of the culture of our classroom. We have certain times when we allow the volume on Keith's communication device to be up, and sometimes when it's down. We had some trouble with this when he first transitioned in, and we were taking a spelling test, and the volume was all the way up, and he was spelling the words out loud for everyone to hear. He's an excellent speller, which gave the rest of the kids a bit of an advantage that they did not need. He's able to let me know, like, if he wants to share something. He has a button on there that he can say where it says, "Miss Parker, I have something that I want to say." And then there are other times where he is just working silently, as you saw during writing. He's just working, and his paraprofessional helps him communicate through paper after he communicates through the computer. So I think the biggest, the greatest thing that's happened about Keith coming into the classroom, which he may not even realize, is that it has made all of the other students in here just really, it's just help them to experience a different kind of, just because someone looks differently doesn't mean that they need to be treated any differently. And I think that that's going to really help out all of these students as people in their lives. And I don't know that he realizes that or that they even realize that, but it's really definitely positively impacted everyone in the room, I would say.
And there's been many a child that have come into the Little Lighthouse in a wheelchair that on graduation has walked up and received its diploma. And that is really what people, I think, don't understand about the Little Lighthouse, and that it is not just a place where children with special needs are loved and cared for. It's a place where there's a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, and the child can be all that God wants it to be. In addition to all the hard work that the child and the staff puts in, everything that's done is bathed in prayer, and it is God's divine intervention that is an equal part in the process at the Little Lighthouse.
Thank you, Little Lighthouse. You gave me wings.